Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We hear a lot of things from various sources, and it's hard to verify them all. So sometimes you discard pieces of information or articles based on your knowledge, your experience. If you read about it, if you lived through that, if you went around the block a few times, you kind of know what is possible or not. Let's say someone would tell you that, let's say Romania, who right now I think is about 17 million people only, let's say 17 million, will tell you that they have an army of 25 million people. That would be something that if you know the population of Romania, would say, well, it's not impossible, but there must be some millions that are not Romanians in the Romanian military, or that's a lie that Romania has a military of 24 million people, since you know that Romania has about 17 million people total population. So that's just a silly example. So sometimes I don't make videos on certain kind of reports, media reports, because I'm like, I don't think so. Like they say, the Russians ran out of people to fight in Ukraine. I mean, that's garbage, obviously. Russia has 145 million people. Do you think they're like, 40 million? The potential of Russia, let's say, male population in Russia, to fight in the military would be about 40 million. So if Russia conducts a general mobilization, would be at least 40 million out of 145 million. They would be eligible from, let's say, 18 to, let's say, 60. Let's say if you want to really go that far. So when they tell you that the Russians ran out of troops, I'm not going to make that kind of video unless I'm going to make fun of it. So here we find out that the Ukrainians got to that point where they are scraping the bottom of the barrel for troops. And they said sometimes they kind of ran out of people to recruit. They became more flexible in getting people who before were were not eligible for military service. They had all kind of medical conditions. Then they say, well, you can come here. So they limited the number, not the list of the requirements, the reason why you can't participate in the war. They said from this list, now this. So all these guys with this will have to come over. So I said, that's a sign these guys are running out of people to fight. Here is an article that I think it is the end of the line for the Ukrainian recruiting possibilities. I don't know how in the hell, because that tells me that the Ukrainians must have died in much greater number than is reported. Much greater than is reported. Let me show you this article. We have to understand that be mindful that this comes from Russia Today. But we'll see if they report on a Ukrainian statement, or on a Russian statement. 15th of October 2023. All eligible, probably eligible, but it's wrong here, spell. All eligible Ukrainians told to report to conscription offices. All. So there's not like a volunteer, or we're going to call Gigi, Mike, and Tom, and now we're going to call John, Stefan, and Emil. No. All. That means whomever is available, Red Rover, come over. The call comes as Moscow claims that Kiev's much-hyped counteroffensive has run out of steam. Now look at this picture. See this guy, poor guy here? These are old people. Anyway, I don't know who these are, but it says file photo Ukrainian enlistees receive basic military training. Now this guy, when you go to fight, size matters in many reasons. When you go to fight, and let's say you go in a duel, there's a reason why you go sideways. Not only for the recoil, that the shoulder pushes against your body instead of like this, So that's one reason is recoil. The other one is receiving the other guy's bullet. I mean, if I stay like this, I'm obviously a wider target than like this. So if I look at this guy, he's definitely discriminated against right here. So he should, I don't know, if like this or like this for him is the same thing. Poor guy, man. I mean, he's just, it goes to certain death. I'm sorry. All Ukrainians liable for military service should attend local enlistment offices for an inspection of their documents, a spokesman for the country's ground forces has recommended. So this is not the Russians saying, the Russians just report what these guys recommended. Vladimir Fityo made the remarks on Saturday live on Ukrainian TV state-controlled broadcasting marathon, which has been running during the conflict with Russia, and I'm quoting, "Now, I would like to remind everyone that the duty to defend their country is ingrained in the Constitution of Ukraine. And in order to be ready to fulfill one's duty to protect Ukraine, one must come to one's territorial recruitment and social support centers, enlistment offices, to update your credentials," Fityo stated. I think they're just take the last ones and say, well, we got them right here, we know where you are, let's go. The visits are required in order to, quote-unquote, properly use the limited resources of the country's recruitment machine, as well as to exempt those not fit for service, Fityo claimed. The, quote-unquote, voluntary call-up concerns not only military-aged men, but female medics and women with military backgrounds, he added. The voluntary call-ups. How can it be a call-up when it's voluntary? Voluntary is when you just show up. A call-up is when someone calls you, right? Maybe it's just a English, but that's how the voluntary call-ups. Is it voluntary or is it call-up? Hey, Emil, yes, you've been mandated or whatever, ordered to report to the recruitment section 329, fuck off. Okay, now that's a call-up. It's not like, excuse me, I didn't volunteer for this. Clink, doo, 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 doo. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Well, maybe I don't get it. Maybe it's me. I don't think so. But anyway, it's a possibility. I'm quoting here. If there are any grounds for a deferment, produce them so that the resources that are there are used properly. A person who, according to the database, is liable for military service and is healthy but actually has an illness but did not report it, we do not know what the person cannot serve. That's true. It was not immediately clear to what extent Ukrainians are actually expected to heed the spokesman's call, given Kiev's chaotic mobilization efforts. I don't know if they're chaotic or not, which has been marred by instances of violence by staff. Again, this is Russia Today, so we move on. Speaking separately during the marathon on Sunday, the head of Ukrainian border guard, Andrei Damchenko, revealed that the service has caught more than 22,000 draft dodgers at the country's border since the beginning of the hostilities. I wouldn't report that. I would not, I would report it, but maybe not the amount. I tell you why. Because that shows this. First, it shows that you guys are good at catching those guys who want to leave. But the second one, you say that 22,000 could be possible deserters? So that means you have 22,000 who are weasels? Or they don't want to serve? They don't support your war? So then maybe the number is bigger than that. And they just dropped it to 22. But 22,000 is still a lot. Calculate 22,000 in 1 year and a half. And it's at least 1,000, let's say 1,200 a month. More than that, but anyway. So I wouldn't, anyway, they know what they do. So let's see. Draft dodgers at the country's border since the beginning of the hostilities. On average, at least 20 would-be servicemen are being caught daily, according to officials. But I don't think that makes sense, because 20 a day, you multiply it by 30, right? Well, you get what? 600 a month. You multiply it by 10 months, you got 6,000. And that means 6,000 plus 3,000, which is half of 6,000. It's 1 year and a half. You get to what? To 9,000. So where's the 22,000? I don't think that's right here, but I don't care. Anyway, 22,000 is a lot. A vast majority of Dodgers, about 16,000, had attempted to leave the country by crossing the border in unpopulated areas. About 6,800 more were apprehended at border crossing as they attempted to pass through using fake documents. Ukraine has sustained heavy casualties during the much hurdled counteroffensive against this, blah, blah, blah. Russia, Putin said over 90,000 people died in the counteroffensive, 557 tanks and 1,900 armored vehicles since its operation began. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know. It seems to me that these guys are taking whatever is available. They want to do like an update of who's available so we know what we can do now. And to me, that hints to the possibility, I think great possibility, that the Ukrainians are running out of fresh blood. We'll see if the Westerners will activate their troops and bring them into Ukraine as volunteers or something else, euphemistics, I don't know, peacekeeper, something, instructors, something like that, and they would probably be actively working. Pop, 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 pop. Now, with Israel's thing, Ukraine fell on the 5th place, since on the 1st place is Israel, 2nd place is Israel, 3rd place is Israel, and so on until the 5th place where Ukraine is. So the first 4 spots is Israel, 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 Israel. Anyway, my friends, here it is. Sorry, maybe this thing in Ukraine ends, even though the Americans try to keep 2 wars at the same time against, the attempt to redistribute or reshuffle the power structure on this globe. I think that's what we're witnessing, actually. And if Russia would have just stayed down, we would have Americans taking over more and more, and either eventually Russia would have started something like this, or even worse, or the Al Capone would have been able to clear the Russian government and install its own puppets, and then would have avoided this. But it seems like interest, in this case beyond the United States and Russia, these are just the symptoms. Just decided that is the time right now, and since Russia opposes this interest in Ukraine, destabilization in Middle East, in the Balkans, you're going to see in Georgia and Armenia, you're going to see in Far East, around the Korean Peninsula and Taiwan. You're going to see these things happening. I guarantee you. In Middle East, Iran is the prize. In the Balkans is Europe, and Russia to a lesser extent, because it's Serbia. Serbia must be smacked, that's for sure. Second front will be open in Georgia, Armenia, and then whoever, Kazakhstan or whomever other people get some ideas. I hope they don't. And then obviously in the Far East. So the Americans are gonna ignite wars like that, boom, 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 boom. They will be the only common denominator everywhere, and it's going to be Russia here, it's going to be Iran here, it's going to be Serbia here, it's going to be, as I said, Georgia, Armenia here, it's going to be Taiwan over there, it's going to be North Korea over there. Everywhere you have Al Capone involved, and everywhere else you're going to have just 1, 2, 3, 4 other little spots. You're not going to have Russia everywhere. You're not going to have China everywhere. You're not going to have North Korea everywhere, or Iran, or Venezuela, or the bad dudes. But you have the good, the forces of good, Al Capone, being on everywhere else. Aren't we special? Aren't we the great? I think so. Great. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.